The views, comments, and opinions of the following program do not necessarily reflect those of Morris Media Studios, MorrisMediaLive.com, or its affiliates. Listener discretion is advised. To Health from the Inside Out. I'm Dr. Cutter, your host, surgical oncologist here in Los Angeles. Just to show you that I still have a face. See, this is still real. I'm still here behind the mask, but I haven't been able to let this go, so I'm going to wear this today. Listen, there's so much going on right now. What a time that we're having. And last time we talked a lot about mental health, right? We talked about the impact of COVID-19, people being furloughed. We talked about Black Lives Matter and the recent episodes of violence associated with the police. We talked about the exuberant protesting and some of the other criminal elements that tried to latch on to that. And we tried to give you some strategies and things about coping and dealing with all of that stress. But since then, things have opened up, right? We have a new opening, a new awakening, especially here in California and particularly in Los Angeles, where people are more out and about. They're going to restaurants and shopping, and we still have our social distancing and mask requirements. But I think people are feeling a little bit more relaxed and able to express themselves and able to live their lives. So, phew, what a relief. But, you know, Reality Ranch is on its way to visit us, right? We have to see how are we going to go from our pre-COVID-19 status, our COVID status, where some of us have had difficulties with maintaining a job or being able to go to work, keeping our living going, maintaining a family, dealing with the things at home. And now that things are starting to lift, some people are finding themselves out of work and what some of their employers are saying, or permanently. And, you know, the one thing that has come out of our situation here with George Floyd is that we've seen, I guess, globally, not just in the United States, but globally, everyone has really seen some of the impacts on ethnic groups in terms of financial dislocation, financial disenfranchisement, you know, financial devastation and financial difficulties. So I started thinking about that. I started thinking, well, you know, what can we do on Health from the Inside Out to really try to bridge from some of those challenges to another space, a way of thinking about things, and not just thinking about things, but being in a position to take action, right? Because, you know, what we all are going to learn is our greatest freedoms come from having, you know, great financial independence and success. So I have a fantastic guest here today. I met her during a Zoom workshop, and the Zoom workshop was really focused on financial health. And I got so caught up in what she was training us all and teaching us all that I really wanted to share her with the rest of you. Her name is Pamela Plick, and she's a very well-trained financial advisor, and she's a financial strategist, but she's very diversified. She works with all different types of groups. I'm going to let her tell you a little bit more about who she is and what she does. But I really want to welcome Pamela Plick to the show today. Welcome, Pamela.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Suzanne. It's wonderful to be here.
It's good to have you here. Tell us a little bit about yourself. What is your background and your training?
Well, I am a certified financial planner practitioner, as well as a certified money coach. I have over 30 years in the financial services industry. My background.
But she looks young, right? She doesn't look like she could have the 30 years, right?
Well, thank you. Thank you.
The spring chicken look. Okay.
I come from a financial background, but what I found in my work, and I specialize in working with purpose-driven women. I have a passion for that.
Okay.
But I also work with men as well. But I have a soft spot about helping women because we have some unique challenges when it comes to managing our finances.
Indeed.
Yes.
So when you say you come from a financial background, what does that mean?
Well, I worked for in banking. In the Global Wealth and Investment Management division.
Did you?
I left there, went to a full-service brokerage firm.
Nice.
And from there, that was a stepping stone to me opening my own wealth management practice, which I did in 2011.
So I want to pause right there because there's so many people who are trying to figure out, well, what can I do? What's out there? Here we have a paradigm, someone who has gotten into banking, wealth management, and flowed through some, big companies in the industry and then went off on her own. So, everyone, we have lots of options out there. The first step is to start to pursue it and to determine, what education you need, what opportunities there are, and then do some networking. So you're going to get some contact information for Ms. Pamela Plick as we progress today. So maybe she might give you some of her wisdom in terms of a career progression, as she also gives you some wealth management wisdom, right?
Absolutely, because now more than ever, there is a need for financial planners.
Yes, yes.
Women make up about 20% of the industry, and people of advisors of color make up even less.
Wow.
And we're actually at the stage now, as baby boomers are aging, that we really need the next generation of financial planners. So it's a great time.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned that you have a particular interest in women. Where did that come from?
I know everyone says, well, what is your story? My story actually, my money power story started over 30 years ago.
Okay, you guys, I like that. My money power story.
Yeah.
I need a money power story. Can you help me write a money power story for myself?
Absolutely. But it's a journey.
Okay.
It's a journey. But
money power story. I like it.
It started over 30 years ago when I got divorced. Actually, although I had a great job, building my career, but I had a small child. My son was 2 at the time. And so I really needed to take charge of my finances and learn, although I knew how to save, but I didn't know about investing and building financial freedom. And so I immersed myself in learning everything that I could, so that my son and I would be financially secure. And throughout...
So did you go to school? Did you read books? Actually, what did you do?
Combination of everything.
Okay.
And it actually led me to my career. My undergraduate degree is in business administration.
Nice.
Finance major with a minor in accounting.
Uh-oh.
And then that led me to go through the educational process to become a certified financial planner.
Okay.
And once I started my practice and started working with clients, later on I became a certified money coach as well, because I really wanted to be able to help more clients. What I found was there were a lot of folks that weren't really ready to take that inspired action, not ready to create the financial plan, invest or whatever it was. So I really wanted a way to help them and, to basically overcome the limiting beliefs that we have, that we don't realize we have.
So that's the difference between the planner and the coach. The
Right.
planner is saying, hey, look, you're ready to take action. I'm going to help you to develop your action plan.
That's right.
But the coach is like, look, you've got some cleaning up to do in one way or the other, so let me help you do some tidying up. Yes?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes. On the coaching side, it's about identifying what's holding you back, and a lot of folks don't realize that a lot of our money beliefs are imprinted upon us as children. So if you think about, what were the messages that you received growing up, from your parents. Usually it's our parents, that's who has
or sometimes
the most
even
impact.
Grandparents, right?
True, it can be, yes.
I think, as you're saying this, I'm thinking about, my upbringing and everything. And, I think people know that I'm from the Midwest or the Mid-Atlantic. I'm not sure what we're calling it these days. But, my grandparents were a strong influence on our family. They were wonderful, funny people, smart. They did all kinds of really things way ahead of their time. But I think they must have been adults during the Depression or like young, teenagers or something or whatever. And it put them into a mode of being very frugal. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm not sure if anybody else in my immediate family picked that up other than me, but I picked up the frugality. So, my mother used to call me Hetty the Miser, right? Oh. Because I was say, I'm not going to get this. So it was really interesting to take your quiz. And you guys, she has this amazing quiz, and we're going to talk about that a little later on. But, it's just kind of interesting how you talk about what people pick up. You do pick that up, and sometimes it's without even anybody specifically telling you, hey, look, save all your money, but you look at the people that you love and admire, or the people that scare you half to death, and you say, I don't want to be like that. And I think that's where your kind of money mantra comes from. Yes,
and also we usually mirror one of our parents or whoever had the biggest influence on us. If you have one parent that was a spendthrift, right, and the other parent, maybe, bought things and said, okay, well, we're out of money now, so we need to go home.
Right. What's a spendthrift?
A spendthrift is someone who's kind of hoards, saves.
So that's me. I'm the spendthrift. Okay. She's being polite and giving me a really pretty word. I'm not just Hetty the Miser. I'm a spendthrift. Okay.
But that's a good one. It's true.
In a way. We'll get to my profile here. I've been I took this quiz about 5 days ago, and I have just been contemplating it. So, we delved into it already a little bit. So we'll do it some more just so that, all of you can get a feel for what she has to offer and the quiz. And we're going to invite you to take the quiz at some point and then communicate with Pamela Plick. What is your website?
My website is PamelaPlickAuthor.com. Okay. And you can get to the money quiz from that site. You just click on the resources tab and take it's free, it's confidential,
right?
Only takes 5 minutes, right?
Exactly. It's really quick. So I'm going to invite all of you right now as we're talking and doing this part to go online and take the quiz so that you can kind of follow along as we talk about the different elements of it. So we're going to talk for a couple minutes more. I keep diverting you from what was it about, what drew you into working with women. You said that you were divorced, you had a small child, and you really had to focus on, making money decisions for the two of you. So what did that look like, and how did it shape your direction?
Well, it shaped my direction because as I started working as a financial planner, working with clients, I found a lot of women who for whatever reason, were not engaged around their money. Whether, if they were married, it's kind of, well, my spouse handles that,
right.
That I don't need to deal with it.
Right.
Or they just didn't make good financial decisions. And so that's what really prompted me to focus on that. And yeah. And like I said, we do have unique challenges. A lot of times we are out of the workforce more often than men, either as caregivers, whether we're raising our children or taking care of someone else, a family member.
Some people say we are in the workforce, but we're in unpaid working positions, right? As homemaker, primary child care, taking care of an older adult and that type of thing. Most women end up in these roles where they're doing work. They are really in the workforce, right? Because if you were to try to get somebody to do it, they would get a salary for that, but it's unpaid work.
Right. And I'm not suggesting that, a stay-at-home mom is not working.
I understand.
But the thing is, you're not getting a salary, like you said.
Exactly.
That means you're not contributing to Social Security.
Right.
You're not contributing to a 401k. So when it comes time to retire,
what do you have?
We have less benefits.
Exactly. You don't. You have the benevolence of your marriage, of your situation, or something like that. So you got to contribute to those things to get those types of benefits, and hopefully we can go beyond, Social Security and all those other things. But I like how you said that. What do you think? What's a good bridge for a woman who is, in that situation? Were you a homemaker while you were married, and then once you got divorced, you weren't, or were you working? Or?
No, I worked.
You were working. Okay,
Yeah.
But you switched fields.
I did.
You just switched fields. But, but I'm sure that you've met a lot of women who have been in that situation where, look, before I was a homemaker and now I'm not. What kinds of strategies or what type of advice do you give women like that?
I'm a big believer of you start from where you are. Okay, we can't beat ourselves up for what we didn't do before.
Right.
Now, if you're still a homemaker, you can still save for retirement. That's what I tell women. You have to protect yourself because a man is not a financial plan. You never know what might happen. And you can, even if you're not working, but your husband is, you can still contribute to an IRA, a spousal IRA. So you can amass some retirement benefits.
That's a good idea, a spousal IRA.
Yeah.
That's interesting what you said, that, a man is not a retirement plan and
a financial plan, period.
Okay.
Yes.
That's a good point. I know somebody who was married. I mean, fortunately, she was working and everything, and her husband had retired. But what she didn't realize is that he was having many strokes. So he was developing dementia. So here he is developing dementia, and everyone, this is one of those silent things that happens in families and couples, as aging, your parents, you think, why is mom, why is dad, why is my husband, acting a little strange? He's forgetting things. Keep your antennas up. But he had dementia full on for 2 years and hid it so well, he had stopped paying all of his bills. Health insurance. I mean, it was like the whole gamut. And she had no idea until one day she comes home and he's face down on the ground having had a stroke. So then all of a sudden, of course you take care of the health issue. Unfortunately, he didn't die, but he did have to stay in the hospital. And while he was there, she realized he didn't have the health insurance, had started to lapse, all these things. So she had to marshal all of those resources, start paying things off and up, and it took like 2 years to untangle that. So, what you're saying is a very good point. It isn't even necessarily that there's some type of friction or a problem with someone, but sometimes it's a health issue. It's just simply a health issue, or somebody may not be as good as they wish they were with money, and so it gets the family into a challenging position, right? Yeah.
Right. And one of the things that I also say, it's really important to talk with your honey about money, okay? Usually there is one person in the relationship that handles the finances,
right?
But it's so important. For some reason, it's common that women, we don't want to talk with our spouses about money. But it's so important because it's, first of all, you have mutual goals, right? It's your household, and either one of you should be able to jump right in and take over the finances, like
no
in
matter
that
what
situation,
happens,
and know where everything is, So, I usually recommend, have a date night, where you talk
financial date night.
Yeah, financial date night.
Honey, we're going to have a financial date night, and you wear your dollar sign
wine,
earrings, and
That's good. That's a good one.
This is what we're doing tonight.
A glass of wine,
That's right.
and just periodically talk about the finances.
Instead of napkins, you use $100 bills to put your drinks on. Like, everybody knows what this means, okay?
Yeah. This is where we're headed. Yeah.
And that is part of relationship health. Being in a situation where you can have these conversations. They don't have to be contentious, right? It doesn't have to be a contentious thing, a blaming thing. What did you do? Oh my gosh. It could really be more, hey, what are our goals, right? What would we like to do? where would we like to be in the next year, 5 years, 10 years? We have these 3 challenges, but there are these 3 goals we have. What would we like to do, right? I mean, am I on the right track?
Yeah, you are. Absolutely. We should always have short, intermediate, long-term goals.
Yeah.
And they should be goals that we, as a couple, if you're a part of a couple, that you agree upon. Now, you both may not agree that you're going to both, retire at the same time, but at least you're agreeing that, hey, yeah, you're going to retire at this age. My plan is to retire at this age.
Right.
What are we going to put in place to help us get to that goal?
And what do we want life to look like when we retire?
Absolutely.
Do we want to stay here in our home? Do we want to move to another state? Do we want to move to the desert? My retirement dream is the nice hot desert. I know you were talking about Palm Desert being too hot. I like the desert, playing golf, and oh my goodness, when I'm 90, that's where I'm going to be, all like crotchety.
Well, I love the desert too, but in the summer, I have as long as I'm hot. In the air conditioned house.
Yeah,
I'm good.
It is blazing hot there. Oh my goodness. But having that vision, that's also something that is good for the relationship, where you have a shared vision. There's something that you're both working toward and looking forward to, something that you both want. How are we going to get there together and be excited about it? We gained 10% in our stock portfolio, or we got our debt down another 10%, whatever it is, and celebrate that. Am I on the right track here?
Absolutely, you are. We, part of celebrating the successes or celebrating milestones, they don't have to be big, grand milestones, but celebrating those and actually talking about it, that gives you the motivation to continue.
Right.
So absolutely celebrate.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. So in working with women, one thing that I think most of us knows, and these are statistics, but we know that women make cents on the dollar as compared to men in the same jobs, not in different jobs, but in the same jobs.
Right.
And women are more likely to be in more of the service jobs. I mean, we saw a lot of that during COVID-19. Those were a lot of those essential workers working for grocery stores and, in health facilities as assistants, and also in nursing, in a lot of these areas, working with food and things like that. And so, I think women are a little bit more vulnerable in some of those types of jobs, right? Because they're not necessarily permanent jobs, right? Some of them are seasonal, or some of them are hourly, and so you're kind of subject to the hours and things like that. Do you have any insights in terms of strategies of moving from, I'm calling that vulnerable, I don't know if that's a good word for it, but from, vulnerable work to less vulnerable work? What do you suggest to people who say, look, I'm working this kind of job and I'd like to be more secure?
Well, what I would say is really look at how you can create a plan to get from that vulnerable job, in vulnerable in the sense that it probably doesn't pay benefits.
Right.
No, there's no health care insurance. There's no retirement benefits. Is there a way to help you get from that type of job? It might be going back to school, be retraining, to get to a full-time job in which you would have those benefits to help you become more financially secure.
So now you've got me on one of my big questions, because there's all these articles that talk about, college, it's expensive, there's no need to go, it's not worth, you should do I can't even think of who the billionaires are that have quit college and started a business. That's not the, 90% of students, right? That's like the less than 1% of students who have been successful quitting college and starting businesses.
Yeah.
So when people kind of go through that cost-benefit evaluation of, college versus starting to work immediately after high school, do you have any guidance for people like that?
Well, the one thing, and this is near and dear to my heart too, because I do some work with millennials, and I see a lot of student loan debt, and so I'm a big believer in education as well, but I think it needs to make sense. If you're financing your education through a student loan, it needs to make sense in terms of what is that return on investment
Right.
with the career field?
What kind of
that you're
job are you
choosing?
going to get at the
Yes.
end of it? So what kind of
Absolutely.
salary can you expect? So you don't want
Absolutely.
to spend all this money and get a PhD and then you get a $20,000 a year job.
That's right.
You want to really make it count. Right?
Right.
So make it count. Your decisions really need to count in terms of
And,
what you select.
yeah, and look for ways, going into debt should be the last resort. There are other options. I actually work full time and went to school.
Wow. I admire that.
But it's really about what's your priorities and what's important to you. And then and I'm not saying it's easy, but really look at is there a way for me to get my education, without going into a lot of debt? Because a lot of millennials now, or folks that have student loan debt, are not able to purchase homes. We were talking about real estate earlier.
Right.
They can't buy homes or afford homes, because of the debt that they're in. So I would say get some counseling first, get some guidance, before to kind of help you map out a plan.
Right.
To get your education.
Do you offer that type of counseling and guidance?
Actually, no, I don't.
Okay.
But there are opportunities, even with the college. There are opportunities to have that kind of guidance.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think that with our increased awareness as to the kinds of feedback students are getting, whether it's women or people of color, or, different groups. You can take it with a grain of salt. Don't just ask one person. Maybe speak to several different people from different situations. Or even better still, find somebody who is working in the career that you're interested in. And then ask them, how did you get here? And, you may not be able to say how much do you make, but you might be able to get an idea as to what you can expect in terms of compensation. And that will also help you to figure out, hey, is this something that's worthwhile for me? Or through that conversation, they may offer you a summer job or a part-time job to get some experience in that position while you're in school, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's great to do informational interviews. I know that's one of the things I did when I was planning to come into the financial planning profession. Wanted to decide exactly what direction or, what specialty. And I did that. I just called people up that I admired that was doing what I thought I wanted to do.
I did the same thing.
And it's great to have a mentor, people are usually, they're open to that.
And they like that enthusiasm, right?
Yes.
Like, ooh, somebody's actually enthusiastic about my field and they're interested in my opinion. That's very flattering to people.
Yeah. And I actually have mentored financial planning students that, they were getting ready to sit for the exam, the CFP exam. And so they were asking me, those questions.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to give share my knowledge and expertise.
So tell us, what was that exam like? Being a person who has taken many painful exams, like, oh my gosh.
Oh my goodness. It was like taking every exam you've ever taken in your life and rolling it into one.
Yeah.
It was 10 hours, 2 days.
Wow.
For the exam. And then you don't even get now it's different. Now they do it online. But back then it was paper.
Oh my
and you had to wait 3 months to find out if you actually passed the exam or not.
Goodness.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I couldn't even imagine that 3 months wait, like what's going on? Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And then the computer, the email comes up and says your exam scores are there, and it's like,
that's right. Like, did I pass? I don't know. So you get a glass of wine and have your friends around, something for support, right? Oh my gosh. Well, this is great. So for those of you who have just joined us and haven't been part of our conversation, I've got Pamela Plick here. She is a financial maven. Okay, she is a certified financial planner. She's a money coach, and she also does wealth management. So she's very multifaceted. And I'm Dr. Cutter. I'm a surgical oncologist here in Los Angeles. And I have her here talking about money health because of all the stressors that we're going through lately and all the people who have had changes in their financial condition related to COVID-19 and all of the things that have been happening. I mean, even some of the people who had experienced some looting with their businesses. I know that's been an issue. A lot of people are saying, oh, it's a victimless crime because insurance covers it. But, I've been reading a lot of articles that have been talking about how that isn't covered. And so some of those people are going to need some strategies as well to rebuild their businesses or to move on from their business. So that's why I have Pamela here, because I think this is an important part of health. This is kind of a mental health component that's focused on money health, right? Because when you're worried about money, when you're stressed out about your finances, it's really hard to focus on other things and to do other things, let alone take care of yourself with an adequate diet and exercise and all those things. We've also been talking about some relationship things and how, good money habits, financial habits can really build a healthy relationship with your significant other. So if you missed some of that, rewind, okay? So now I want to segue a little bit into this magic quiz, okay?
Okay.
She's got this great quiz, you guys, that what you do is you take the quiz. I'm not going to tell you what it's like, and I hope those of you who are watching before went onto her website, took the quiz, and now you have your readout in front of you. So we're going to now start delving into some of these issues. So, get it out and get your paper and pens out so you can start taking some notes on this. But what was the impetus for you developing this quiz? I mean, where did this quiz come from?
It is a proprietary quiz. So, but I think that it's a great starting point, because like I said, a lot of our blocks are money blocks.
Right.
They're not conscious. We don't realize, that we have them. And so this is a great starting point. So in order to move forward, you have to know where you are. So
that was your motivation?
Yes, that was my motivation for folks to know where they are in terms of what types of beliefs they have, where they came from, and how they are showing up.
So did that come from your coaching side, where you were trying to coach people and they were, you were trying to have a conversation with them about something and you realized that, were you speaking different languages or they just weren't aware of where their head was? Is that what was motivating you or what was it?
Well, what was motivating me in my practice is I wanted to incorporate more of the spiritual side of money.
Okay.
And so I really wanted a way to do that without trying to reinvent, reinvent the wheel, because
Press
I
down,
believe
shaken together.
Yes.
Rolling over.
And this was a way for me to do that because I believe there's three aspects to our relationship with money. There's the spiritual, the emotional, as well as the practical side. And we need to address all three in order to have an empowered relationship with money.
Okay. And what were you finding? Was there a certain one that nobody was addressing? You're like, okay, I have to bring this in, or different people weren't addressing different things of those three?
A lot of it was the emotional.
Okay.
Because if you know what you're supposed to be doing and you're not doing it, then there's something going on in the other two areas.
Yeah.
And so that's what we have to look at and move, get past or heal those types of blocks to be able to take that inspired action, which is the practical side of money.
So then now this quiz, it's a great quiz, you guys. I hope, everybody here in the studio has taken it too. You guys don't be shy because, we're going to go over these things. So you take the quiz and then it gives you a nice readout. So let's talk about the readout. There's 8 different elements?
Right. There are 8 money archetypes.
Money archetypes.
Yes.
Okay.
And this is based on psychological research. Okay. But the archetypes are not our personalities. They are metaphors, basically.
Okay.
So there's 8 money archetypes, and only 3 of them. And a lot of us have a percentage of each archetype, but there's 3 that we really want driving our financial car, and that's
don't
the
give,
analogy.
don't give that away yet.
Okay.
Let's go the other way. So the goal is to get to these three.
Right.
But so then when you assess somebody, you get these 8 and they get their scores, and you kind of focus on their top 3, right? Is that the approach that you take?
I focus on there are archetypes that are active. Mm-hmm. And there are archetypes that are passive. So active is like, that's who's in the front seat.
Okay.
Those are the voices that are in our head that are helping us make those money decisions.
Okay.
And the archetypes can change based on where we are, in terms of our life stage or what's going on in our lives. But so we look at, which archetypes are active.
And which ones are passive?
Yes.
So let's name them. So I remember one is innocent.
The innocent.
Right.
The victim.
Victim, right.
Right. There's also the martyr, mm-hmm. the magician, the warrior.
That's my favorite. Yeah. The creative.
And artist. Artist, yeah.
Mm-hmm. What are we missing? I feel like we're missing a couple. So let's see. Innocent, victim, martyr, creative, warrior, magician. What are we forgetting here? See, I asked you too fast. It's too fast.
I know.
See, I know what my profile is. So those 4 I'm remembering, but the other ones I kind of put out of my mind because I'm like, oh, those don't apply to me. But so there's 8 of them, guys.
Yeah,
okay, we're going to have to pull them out for you and let you know what those are. It's gonna come up in the conversation and everything. So let's talk about the innocent. Mm-hmm. Tell us about the innocent.
The innocent it's similar to the ostrich. That's kind of the analogy. You know how the ostrich likes to bury their head in the sand. Mm-hmm. The innocent really it's like, I don't want to think about my finances. I don't want to open my statement. Mm-hmm. I'm not good at finances. Let somebody else take care of it.
So they're kind of in denial.
Yes,
or
denial.
Or in avoidance. It's not really denial, it's avoidance, right? They're complete
mm-hmm.
avoidance. Okay, what's the martyr like?
The martyr is someone that really wants to take care of other folks. Mm-hmm. At the expense of themselves.
So most moms.
Yeah. A lot of times we are. Yeah, mm-hmm. We give. Mm-hmm. We have difficulty setting boundaries.
Right.
And asking for what we want. Right. And a lot of times martyrs use the money as a tool to control. A
martyr does?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's some power in the martyr.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think
but that's not a good thing.
No, I'm not saying that there is, but I'm just saying, because sometimes you look at these as just being completely vulnerable, but there's 2 sides to it. Yeah. And I think this is a man and woman thing, everybody. I don't want you to think that, only women fit into this. We can all think of that, of people who fit into these categories.
Yes.
Excuse me. Okay, so then what about my favorite? No, I'm kidding. The tyrant. That one cracks me up. A tyrant, everybody,
Yes, the tyrant is all about making money. Okay. It's all about
that doesn't sound bad
conquest.
So far. Okay,
well,
conquest. Okay, now we're getting
but
to
if you're making money and you're not knowing what's the why behind the money, and it's never enough.
Okay. So never insatiable. Enough.
Yes.
The tyrant is insatiable and doesn't care who gets caught up in the process, huh?
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's not sounding attractive.
And a tyrant is really kind of an overdeveloped warrior.
Okay. Warrior's the good one. A good one. So tell us about the warrior.
The warrior is the one. Also, the warrior also makes money as well. They know how to make things happen. Mm-hmm. Okay. The warrior puts the plan in place. Mm-hmm. Okay. But they also have the spiritual side too. That they know they're doing this for a purpose.
Right.
They're confident that there's enough, that they're being supported, by the universe.
Right.
And the warrior is a good thing.
Okay.
But an overdeveloped warrior can be a tyrant.
So I want you all to know, I'm smiling. I'm going to show you a big smile behind here because that was my dominant one. and my active. I was a warrior. I was so excited when I saw that. But you don't want to know what the other ones were. So my passive and the subtext under there. Okay, so we've got the creative.
Yeah,
One,
the creator
creator
artist.
What's going on there?
The creator artist, that's the second archetype that you do want to have as active. But the thing is, you need to have a balance between the three. Because the creator artist is kind of, they have 1 foot, 1 foot in the spiritual world, 1 foot in the 3D world. It's about, I just want to help people. I just want to do my work. I don't want to think about
I'm just out here.
Yeah, I don't want to think
life.
about charging. I'm just here for a purpose. I want to give.
Right.
But if you're overdeveloped in the creator artist, that's where you get the money issues come in. You want to do the work, but you need to be paid appropriately for the work that you do.
I think that is such an important lesson for, I don't know what the group of people is. I don't know if it's an important lesson for women or, who it is, but I know that's an important lesson for me. I tend to do a lot of volunteering and helping out and all this stuff. And there's somebody that I work with that I've known for like 20 years, and he is all about, look, are they paying you for that? You don't need to be doing that. So we have this kind of back and forth, and there's a little yin and yang there. But he does make me think about it. I'm like, how many things do I do that there's no remuneration for it? So I think it sounds like it's a good trait to have, but you just don't want to go too far into that, where you look up and you find yourself just volunteering and helping and doing all of these things, and maybe not necessarily getting what you really need, to sustain your life. Right.
But then that's also part of the martyr.
Okay.
Because I'm also a recovering martyr too. Because I used to do a lot of volunteer work.
My name is Pamela,
yes.
and I'm a martyr.
No, not anymore.
I was a martyr.
No. Yeah, I was.
I'm a recovering martyr.
Yes.
So how does that happen? The martyr, because you're giving.
Giving.
And then all of a sudden it becomes this horrible sacrifice. Like, I'm sacrificing.
And then you start to
so
resent, too. If you give, and then you're like, well,
I like that face. That's the telling face.
Yes.
We've seen that face before. Where somebody's like, what? What's going on with this? I love it. Okay. And then the other favorite, let's see, we did the creative artist, we did the warrior, the magician. I love the magician. Tell us about that.
Yes, the magician.
This is one of my favorites.
Yes, it is so awesome. The magician also knows that they're being supported. They have their plan. They're making things happen, but they know that there is enough. There's enough in the world, and they're being supported by the universe. Usually the magician has, serves a higher power. So
that's beautiful, actually. Yeah. So the profile, the top 3 that we all want to aspire to, is a combination of the warrior, the magician, and the creative,
the creative
artist, right?
Creator
Those
artist,
3 together. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about, so hopefully you guys have all taken your quizzes and you're looking at your printouts, you're seeing your percentages. Don't be bummed out, okay? Because there's a pathway. This is not about being perfect and having the best scores or anything like that. Did you guys out there, did you guys take your quizzes? Yes? Okay, so I think they took their quizzes, but they're being shy about telling us what about what their scores are. So, don't be bummed out or disappointed that you're not fitting into the perfect profile. I mean, I think the power in it is kind of knowing where you are, right? Just like what you said earlier.
Yes, and actually, the archetypes are there to teach us as well, right? They teach us, first of all, where we are and what we need to do to grow, to grow to the ideal archetypes.
Right. It was interesting. There was a woman in the seminar that I was in with you, and this was like the part 2 where another group took over the seminar, and she said, I'm finding that I'm, this archetype is my strong one. Should I find a man who is the complement of that.
Yeah.
This is a setup. So what is your response to that?
My response to that is no. You want to develop your own archetypes, the 3 archetypes, and find a person that, to complement you.
But
with
in
those
what way?
3.
What's the complement?
Well, they're creator, artist, magician, as well as warrior.
Okay, so they're fully developed.
Yes, they're fully developed. You're fully developed. So 2 fully developed people come together. It's interesting though. Again, back to the innocent. A lot of times, an innocent is paired with either a warrior or a tyrant.
I knew you were going to say that. Yeah.
Yes.
I can see that, right? Because the tyrant's like, look, this is how it's going to go, okay?
Yeah, because they want to save each other, and
Yes.
it's really not about saving each other. It's about standing in your own power, and that's another thing as far as the magician is they know their power, standing in your own, your own power.
I can see how egos could be a big part of this. Just thinking about this from a mental health perspective, like you are in a relationship, you both take the quiz, and your significant other kind of has some more attractive qualities than from your I shouldn't say that, archetypes. You find their archetypes more attractive than your own. How do you kind of bridge from someone who may not be as on the same playing field, with the same profile? So they aren't the magician, warrior, creative artist. They may be the innocent martyr, I don't know, magician, something.
Right.
So then, how does that work? How do you bridge that?
Well, again, it's about sitting down and having that conversation and identifying the traits and what needs to be done to move them forward. Okay. I mentioned that I do primarily, coaching for women, but I also do couples coaching. So
Nice.
It is, if you have where you guys are they're just opposite, then maybe you need to get some help in order to kind of bridge that and help you come together.
Because let's face it, we really need to strengthen families. We're kind of in an era in this country where we have a lot of single people out there, right? Never married, or people who are divorced, or people who have been widowed or what have you, and there's just a lot of singles out there. So that's why we're all clinging to our furry babies and, getting these, these pets. Everybody is talking about their dogs like their kids and everything. And that's all okay, but I think that there's, just kind of this disjointed sense sometimes in the world. And so, being able to build a life with someone, if that's what you're choosing is, I mean, there's no pressure there and there's no judgment. But, if you want to be with another person, this is a good way to kind of get over this hurdle, because I think money is one of the most frequent causes of divorce. Of divorce,
there, yes. Right? And it's one of the top 3 stressors. Is money.
Really?
Money issues. Yeah. And
I guess we can guess at the other 2.
Well, but it's all about healing yourself, making sure, because you're going to, we attract who we are, right? Yeah. So if you work on your money issues and heal, your relationship with money, then you're more likely to attract someone that is on that same.
Right.
That same level.
But if you're clinging to being a martyr or something like
or
that.
Or a victim. We didn't talk about the victim, but yes.
What's the deal with the victim?
The victim is they live in the past. They are blaming everyone except themselves for their situation. Maybe a lot of times divorced spouses, have some victim. If it wasn't for my spouse leaving me, I'd have more money. Or if my parents had taught me about money, I would be better, in a better financial situation. Or if I had a better job, I could save more. It's everything except taking ownership of what they're, that they're the ones that have control over their financial situation.
It's kind of interesting that you mentioned that one last, because I think that there's a lot of people who might be falling into that category. You know, they're sitting here, one day they were employed, life was good, and then all of a sudden there's this illness that hits society and their lives have been changed. They've been altered, perhaps for forever. You know, this, I think some of this may send some people into a financial tailspin. So just kind of coming to grips with that and recognizing, okay, maybe this person is feeling like a victim right now. You know, like, man, you know, everything was going fine. I was saving. I was on my way. And then this COVID thing hit and now it's pushed me back. You know, how do you get from the victim mindset? You know, what's the segue to that? Because it seems like each one of these kind of has a segue archetype. You know, so what's the segue archetype of the victim?
Well, a segue, you know, in terms of activity or steps, is to actually practice forgiveness. That's one of the things. You know, it's, you know, a lot of times, you know, when if we're feeling stuck, we have to look at, well, what do I need to forgive, or who do I need to forgive? You know, and not only is it important to forgive others that you
Sometimes
feel
it's self,
but forgive yourself. You know, Maya Angelou had a quote, a great quote. You know, when we know better, we do better.
That's
you
true.
know, so forgive yourself for what you didn't know before, and start from now. Yes. And that financial education, I think, is so important, you know, for the victim as well as the innocent. And that's easily overcome, you know, because one of the biggest, you know, one of the top mistakes that we make, or, you know, folks make with mistakes they make with their finances, is procrastination. And a lot of times that procrastination is due to fear. You know, the fear of making a mistake.
What kind of procrastination? What do you mean? Procrastination in terms of
putting things off, like not making the financial decisions they need to make, not opening your investment statement or your 401k statement, not setting up that emergency fund. You know, so I'll do that later.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So it's important to, you know, getting that financial education. You know, that easily overcomes. It gives you the confidence to make those good decisions. Yeah.
And there's a saying that no decision is already a decision.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
You know, you're making a decision to forego something, you know, in the interest of maintaining status quo. But we know status quo, I mean, we found out in 2008, status quo isn't always the best way to go.
No.
Oh, I made a rhyme. Status quo is not the best way to go. Not always. Not always.
No.
But it's true. You know, you sit there and you think, okay, yeah, I could do this. I'll just wait till next year. And then next year comes, okay, well, 6 more months or 2 more years, or now this has happened. And then you look up, it's been 10 years and you've missed an opportunity.
Right.
You know, you've missed a big opportunity. And if you had just started, even if you started with a little back then, just
absolutely,
compound interest is an amazing thing. Is
yes,
it not?
It is. It is, and that's the key. The power of compounding. You know, the idea is just to start. Okay, but you want to get good information. So there's so much information now. You know, a lot of times we can go into information overload.
Right.
You know, but there's so many places to get free information regarding, you know, your finances.
Or they can go to a money coach.
Right. Or a community, join a community where, you know, where the point is you don't want to get that information from someone that's trying to sell you something.
Right.
Okay. But that helps you to be able to make an informed decision, you know, and also to know what questions to ask if you choose to work with a financial professional.
Right.
Yeah.
I like that a lot. So I think the victim is really, you know, that's kind of a powerful place to be, because, you know, there is that big opportunity for forgiveness. I think forgiveness is really what heals so many different things and fixes so many relationships and situations, even work situations. You know, forgiveness just really has applicability across everything. And there's a spiritual basis in forgiveness as well. So that's kind of it's a really good mind, body, spirit thing.
Yes.
You know, forgive ourselves for, you know, not following through with certain things or certain activities, or having done something we felt we shouldn't have done later, and really getting stuck on that and not being able to move past. But the freedom associated with that forgiveness is just incredible.
It is. And another action, that I feel in terms of helping us to keep a positive money mindset, especially during uncertain times, is to practice gratitude.
Yeah.
Wherever we are, in our money journey or our relationship with money, be grateful.
Right.
Again, that gratitude gives us the clarity and the peace of mind, to continue to move forward.
Right. I've heard so many people express this sentiment about the graduates and how horrible it is to graduate in the era of COVID-19, and just how they've been robbed. I mean, somebody was just telling me this today, and I really tried to give the perspective of, there's a good side to everything. There's something wonderful that happens with everything. I've seen a lot of graduates get a lot of celebration, people really going out of their way to do those drive-by graduation celebrations or sending them gifts. There's a lot of savings involved with not having to dress up every day and go to class and all of those things, a lot of time savings. People who, I have one colleague whose son lives in Northern California and has spent now the past 2 months with his parents, not having done that since high school, and they got a wonderful time, together. So I think there's so many good things that come out of it. And so just kind of focusing on, well, what is the upside here? What is it that I got out of this experience? And especially for you graduates, I think everybody does have that feeling of compassion for all of you. And this is a little bit different than what the rest of us have experienced. But keep in mind, you're always going to be special, always going to be special, because you graduated in 2020. So no one can ever take that away from you. And, it's going to be a beautiful thing. And people are going to talk about your graduation for the next, 50 years probably, right?
Absolutely.
It's something you're going to tell your grandkids about. And, what was that like? You were there during the pandemic. I felt like it was 1918 all over again with the flu epidemic,
Yes. And I'm sure they're going to follow the
this
career.
Class,
and
see what happens.
This class. Yes.
I think there is going to be a lot of research on that. So, that's a really good message, is of gratitude, forgiveness. See, we've really gotten to the kernel of these things, right? And, you also talked about your money power plan. Isn't that what you called it? Money power plan?
Yeah, money power wealth strategy, wealth building strategy.
But you said you called it a power something. What am I saying?
Your money power, rising to your money power.
Money power. I love that.
Yeah.
Not that, it's all about money, but, money makes it all go down a little bit easier, doesn't it?
Well, the thing is, even from a lot of folks have from the spiritual perspective, they're wanting to bring unique gifts into the world, right, in ways that have the greatest impact. And a lot of times, one of the big obstacles is money, right? So looking at what is your big why, not just because you're making money just to make money, but it allows you, if you strive to live an abundant life, part of that abundance is prosperity,
right,
or financial prosperity. And there's so much good you can do, whether you're wanting to give to
so much
causes that you're passionate about, like with you, the volunteering, or helping family members, whatever that might be, that's your big why. And that is what motivates you, not the fact of just making money. Yes.
Now, you brought up a really good point, or maybe what you're saying made me think of this, but a lot of people, there's a group of people who think about money as being evil, right? And I had somebody tell me that somebody took me to a Laker game, and we were going into the VIP section, and there was a young lady who was sitting there letting people in and out. And I don't even know how we got into this conversation, but she said, rich people aren't happy, so I don't mind being poor. This was something like that she said to me. And, and it really kind of took me aback, because she was fairly young, and, she was still at a point in her life. I mean, she's like, 21 or something. Like, you're talking about being poor now. Like, You have so many years left and so much potential, so many things you can do. So do you, when you find that in people who are feeling that this money is evil thing, I mean, what's the transition for those people? Is it guilt or what's the deal?
You know what? That is really interesting because that is a limiting belief. That's a belief that was imprinted upon her. So I would, in having a conversation with her, I would ask, well, how did you come to that conclusion?
Yeah.
What did she see growing up?
Right.
You know, because that, and again, that goes to changing that belief,
right?
You know,
right. And some people think that, you know, well, Jesus was poor and everything. Jesus was not poor. He wasn't. You know, if you really read the Bible, they describe his garments and their treasury and all of those things. He was not poor.
Right.
He had adequate resources. So, you know, there's poverty is not necessary to be close to your faith.
Right.
You know, there's other pathways toward that. And, you know, I'm not going to go too far, you know, on that point, but I think this is a really good place to kind of encapsulate everything and kind of talk about all the things that we've learned. I mean, we talked a lot about your trajectory in terms of preparing yourself for this position, your training, and all of those things, which was fascinating to me. And then, you know, we did a lot of talking about relationships and individuals and how, you know, it's important if you're in a relationship that you've got to build up your own financial acumen and all of those things, right? And then as a couple, you know, you can do that together. But even as an individual, you can go from wherever you are to wherever you want to be. One pathway towards that is having a money coach, having a financial, you know, planner, having someone who's helping you focus on wealth building and getting rid of limited beliefs. So we gave you the website. You can go on there, take a quiz, and then get in contact with Pamela Plick and see if you could get some money coaching to help you to move forward. We all need to move forward from this point. And I believe in all of you. I know that you can do it. So I just really want to thank Pamela for being with us today. You were terrific.
Oh, thank you.
I learned a lot. I hope everybody else did. Make sure you take those quizzes and look her up. But listen, this is Health from the Inside Out. We're so glad to have you here. And keep your financial and mind-body health on target, okay? Have a great weekend.